does.
It should. I mean, we're doing stories. I've done stories where you go and you sit and people tell you about the horrors of having to live in an existence where the only promise of food is to essentially sell your 8-9-year-old daughter because you will then maybe get food for the next 6 months. I've seen those, but I think that it should leave us in a state of chagrin that when things like this continuously happen and we don't seem to then be able to pay attention to those things, but focus on some other rubbish that really doesn't matter, when children are essentially being sacrificed at the altar of things like politics.
So the biggest problem that we have, I think, as a society, is that we haven't understood one basic principle, that children don't belong to parents.
They're just custodians.
Children belong to this country and to the society, and that we all have an obligation to make sure that every child gets a quality education. Why? Because a child who gets a good quality education will contribute to this society for the benefit of everyone. Some of the parents, we are saying, the father has not done this, the mother has not done this, will be long dead, they will not be there. And these children are just going to be adults who either serve and benefit the rest of the society, or who may have a lot of grievances against society and may actually turn out to hurt society. Their parents won't be there.
Let me ask, Mwalimu, because it's appalling that we can find comfort in saying that due to the levels of poverty or collapse of our societal order in whatever community we belong to, that it is almost acceptable that underage kids will be denied their right to school, to education, and they'll be exposed to adult activities. For me, I cannot wrap my head around that, because every state ought to secure, that's the word, its citizens. And the number one order is the young ones. Before everything you hear is about children, women, vulnerable. It begins with the young ones. The number one protection we can offer is providing facilities and structures where these kids spend a lot of their time. Facilities need to be conducive enough to allow them to grow and to develop. But we seem to be admitting and finding comfort that, yes, that has collapsed, so we should not be surprised when the consequences are so active. I think if somebody can defend when we say we have a failed country, I would want them to prove why. I would want them to back up, because I strongly feel that if we truly cannot take care of our 11 million school-going kids or thereabout, we have no business saying that this government is working for anyone. Their job cannot be just collecting taxes and trying to justify budgets that we clearly cannot see the impact. We are talking about young girls getting pregnant underage, courtesy of, in this case, a failed education system, that there are not enough safeguards. We also seem to, and I would want to hear your opinion on this, what you think about the role of private schools in collapsing the public school system. Because I hold the opinion that if we focused more on improving our public schools than abdicating that duty to the private sector, perhaps we'd have more functional education system. What's your opinion on that?
Now, let me start by saying this. Kenya is making an effort. If you compare in the region,
no, we don't.
Maybe it is wrong to compare.
Yeah,
in the region.
It is very wrong.
But even if we compare to ourselves, when I was in class 8, we were 38 of us in class. Out of those 38, only 11 transitioned to Form 1. So the transition rate even then was horribly low. We have done well on improving the transition rates. Our transition rates right now are much better. Of course, they're not what the government is saying, but they are better than what they were some years back. We are improving. We are improving too slowly for my liking. We could improve faster, but we are improving. Sometimes it's good to celebrate those small things. Second thing that I need to mention that is also important is the role of the private sector in complementing public sector. Why? Because on an ideal situation, it should have been possible for the government to say, these children can pay and these children can't pay. And so the public is going to pay for these children who can pay, and these ones who can pay should pay and be in public schools. Because that mechanism is difficult to derive, and we don't like doing the difficult things many times. We have allowed the private school sector to offload those who can pay from the public system. So they are paying. They remain Kenyan children, whom we owe a duty to a free and compulsory quality basic education as enshrined in our constitution. But their parents are taking that responsibility, and the government is not supporting those children. In a way, they are being offloaded from the public system. Ideally, should enable the government to offer better quality to those who remain in the public system, because the numbers have been reduced. That 23-24% of the children in this country are in private schools. That offloads responsibility from the public education system. We should take that opportunity to improve the quality that is there in the public school, because now we are not shouldering responsibility for all these other almost quarter of the children, to make the quality in public school, especially primary, because when we get to secondary, the best schools are public. But primary, to improve that quality, because foundational learning is the most important part of learning. If you can learn how to learn at the foundational level, you are capable of going anywhere and attaining any heights in education, even on your own. In this era of internet and a lot of information, you can self-educate if you have a strong foundation. So for me, yes, there are elements where the private school system has been used to undermine the public, but it is not entirely evil. We can actually take advantage of its existence and the willingness of some parents to put their children in the private school system, to say, this quarter has now been taken off public coffers. Let us utilize what remains to make sure that the 3 quarters who have remained in the public system are getting equal or even better quality education than those who have gone to the private. Because today we said, let's close all the private schools. The public school system will not be able to carry, because we are seeing high levels of congestion in public schools, even when a significant number is still in the private. So if we were to close the private, the public will be entirely overwhelmed. And so for me,